0914. An AI-generated image hits the internet showing the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest warship ever built, broken apart and resting on the ocean floor. The flight deck is cracked. Fighter jets are scattered like toys. An American flag hangs limp over what looks less like a ship and more like a coffin. The image was not posted by some anonymous troll account. It came from the official website of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Supreme Leader of Iran. The caption read, "A warship is dangerous, but more dangerous is the weapon that can send it to the bottom of the sea." Within hours, 3.5 million people had seen it. And Khamenei wasn't finished. That same morning, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched a live-fire naval exercise they called Smart Control of the Strait of Hormuz. Cruise missiles streaked off the decks of fast attack corvettes. Shore batteries on 3 fortified islands, Abu Musa, Greater Tumb, Lesser Tumb, fired volleys into the narrow waterway. Armed drones ran attack profiles under active electronic jamming. And for the first time anyone could remember, Tehran actually shut parts of the strait down. For several hours, 20% of the world's daily oil supply had nowhere to go. IRGC Navy Commander Ali Reza Tangsiri stood on the bridge of a warship and delivered a message to state television. "The decision to close the strait," he said, "rests with our leaders. As a soldier, I am ready to carry it out whenever they say." This was not a random Tuesday. At the exact same time, Khamenei was posting photoshopped aircraft carriers and Tangsiri was firing missiles into shipping lanes. Iranian and American diplomats were sitting across from each other in Geneva, trying to negotiate a nuclear deal. Tehran was saying two things at once: "We want to talk, and we can hurt you." But here's the question Khamenei's post actually raised. Not whether Iran would try, whether Iran could. Can anyone sink a modern American supercarrier? The last country that pulled it off sent pilots who weren't planning on flying home. 81 years. That is how long it has been since anyone sank an American aircraft carrier in combat. The last one was the USS Bismarck C, a small escort carrier hit by 2 kamikaze aircraft off Iwo Jima on the 21st of February, 1945. She burned for 3 hours, then broke apart. 118 sailors died. Since that morning in the Pacific, no enemy has managed to put an American flat top on the ocean floor, not for lack of trying, and not because no one tested it. In 2005, the United States Navy decided to answer the question itself. They took the decommissioned supercarrier USS America, 1,000 feet long, 60,000 tons, a ship that had earned 8 battle stars across 3 decades of service, towed her into the Atlantic, and tried to kill her. They hit her with surface-to-surface missiles. They fired torpedoes into her hull. They dropped bombs from aircraft. They did this for 4 straight weeks. The ship would not sink. America had a double-layered hull, alternating walls of steel and empty void space that swallowed explosions before they could reach critical compartments. Her internals were divided into hundreds of sealed sections, each one designed to flood independently without dragging the rest down. Even without a crew to fight the damage, even without power, even cold and dark and abandoned, she just kept floating. In the end, the Navy had to board her and plant demolition charges inside the belly of the ship. Only then, on the 14th of May, did America finally slide beneath the surface and drop 17,000 feet to the Atlantic floor. She remains the largest warship ever deliberately sunk, and every lesson from that exercise went straight into the blueprints of the Gerald R. Ford. In 2021, the Navy strapped sensors to Ford's hull and detonated 3 charges of 40,000 pounds each, the last one right off the starboard beam. The blast registered on earthquake monitors as a 3.9 magnitude event. Helicopters were landing on the flight deck within minutes. No fires, no flooding. The captain reported less damage than predicted. The electromagnetic catapults that launch fighters off the bow kept working. Ford was not designed to survive one hit. She was designed to absorb punishment that would snap a destroyer in half and keep launching aircraft while she does it. But Iran is not planning to send one missile. Their doctrine calls for hundreds, and the cheapest weapon in the salvo costs less than a used Toyota. Iran's generals are not stupid. They watched the same footage of USS America refusing to sink, studied the same Ford shock trials, and reached the same conclusion everyone else did. You cannot kill a supercarrier with a single punch. So they built a doctrine around throwing everything at once. The concept has a clinical name: saturation attack. The logic is straightforward. Every Aegis destroyer carries a finite number of interceptor missiles. Every radar has a finite number of targets it can track before the picture turns to noise. If you throw enough cheap projectiles at the shield, eventually the shield runs dry. And then you send the real weapon through the gap. The first wave would be drones. Dozens of Shaheds, slow, expendable, worth less than a motorcycle, launched from Iranian coastline and island garrisons across the Gulf. Their job is not to hit the carrier. Their job is to die. Every drone shot down is one fewer interceptor in the magazine. The second wave is where it gets serious. The Khalij Fars is Iran's most credible anti-ship threat, a solid-fuel ballistic missile based on the Fattah 110 airframe, with a range of 300 kilometers and a 650-kilogram warhead guided by an electro-optical seeker that locks onto a ship's silhouette in the terminal dive. It is not subtle. It does not need to be. At that weight, a direct hit on the flight deck would crater the landing strip and turn parked aircraft into shrapnel. Behind that comes the weapon Khamenei was almost certainly hinting at. The Fattah series, Iran's claimed hypersonic missile. Tehran says Mach 13 to 15. Western analysts at the International Institute for Strategic Studies say something different. The Fattah is a medium-range ballistic missile with a maneuvering re-entry vehicle. It follows a ballistic arc for most of its flight and only begins evasive steering in the final phase. That is not the same as a true hypersonic glide vehicle. More importantly, it has never been tested against a moving ship. Then there are the wild cards. Fast attack boats swarming in packs of 20. Midget submarines lurking in shallow Gulf waters. Sea mines, thousands of them stockpiled over decades, scattered across shipping lanes. And a Chinese-built YLC-8B radar on the mainland, specifically designed to detect low observable aircraft. Iran does not need to win. Their doctrine has a name for this too: cost imposition. Make the war so expensive, so bloody, so disruptive to global oil markets that Washington decides it is not worth it. Not victory, just survival at an acceptable price. On paper, it is a real plan, but every element of it depends on one assumption: that the other side will not see it coming. And that is the part Iran got catastrophically wrong. Iran's saturation doctrine assumes the shield has a breaking point. The shield has a name. It is called Aegis. Every Arleigh Burke destroyer in the strike group carries the AN/SPY-1D phased array radar. 4 fixed panels bolted to the superstructure, each one scanning a quarter of the sky. The system does not rotate. It does not sweep. It paints the entire hemisphere simultaneously, tracking over 100 contacts at once while computing intercept solutions for each one faster than any human crew could manage. When a missile is inbound, Aegis does not wait for a phone call from Washington. The system operates in automatic special mode. If it classifies a contact as a hostile act, it selects the right interceptor, assigns it a target, and fires. The entire sequence takes seconds. A commander in the Combat Information Center can override it. But by the time he reaches for the switch, the first standard missile is already in the air. And there is not one of these ships. There are 15. 9 destroyers escorting the Lincoln, 3 more sailing with the Ford, additional shooters scattered across the Red Sea and the Eastern Mediterranean. Each one carries up to 96 vertical launch cells loaded with a mix of SM-2s for air defense, SM-6s for long-range intercepts out past 240 kilometers, and Tomahawks for hitting back. 3 literal combat ships sit inside the Persian Gulf itself, running surface patrols and feeding sensor data to the network. This is not a theory. This is what the fleet spent the last 2 years proving in combat. During months of operations against Houthi drones and ballistic missiles in the Red Sea, Aegis-equipped destroyers intercepted wave after wave of Iranian-designed weapons. The same Shaheds, the same cruise missiles, the same tactics Iran would use in the Gulf. The crews did not just survive the saturation playbook. They wrote the manual on how to beat it. If you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, you will not miss a single War Horizon breakdown. Now, back to the story. Because Iran had already tested these defenses once, 2 weeks before Khamenei posted his picture, and it did not go well. 14 days before Khamenei posted his picture, a Shahed-139 lifted off from somewhere along Iran's southern coast and turned toward the Arabian Sea. The drone, A twin-boom, propeller-driven aircraft roughly the size of an MQ-1 Predator climbed a cruise altitude and settled on a heading that pointed directly at the USS Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln was 500 miles offshore. The Shahed-139 had the range to get there and loiter for hours. 1,800 kilometers on a full tank, 28 hours of endurance. At 220 kilometers per hour, it was not fast. It did not need to be. The point was to get close, collect reconnaissance footage, and fly home. Or maybe not fly home. The crew of the Lincoln had no way to know whether the thing was carrying cameras or explosives. That ambiguity was the weapon. An F-35C from Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 314, the Black Knights, launched off the deck. The jet's distributed aperture system picked up the drone's infrared signature long before any conventional radar would have painted it. 6 sensors embedded around the fuselage feeding a single fused picture to the pilot's helmet display. 360 degrees, no blind spots. The AN/APG-81 radar confirmed the track. A slow-moving, non-maneuvering target against an aircraft whose radar cross-section is roughly the size of a marble. The drone did not turn. It did not respond to de-escalatory signals, so the Black Knight fired. 1 shot, 1 kill. The Shahed-139 went into the Arabian Sea. Hours later, 2 IRGC fast boats and a Mohajer surveillance drone rushed a US-flagged oil tanker, the Stena Imperative, inside the Strait of Hormuz, threatening to board and seize it. The guided missile destroyer McFall was already nearby. She closed the distance, put herself between the tanker and the Iranians, and escorted the vessel out while fighters provided overhead cover. The IRGC boats turned around. 2 provocations in 1 day, 2 failures. A $94 million stealth fighter had just swatted a drone that cost less than a mid-range sedan, using a missile worth $430,000. The math was absurd. But the message was not about math. The message was, we see everything you send, and none of it is getting through. Iran received that message on the 3rd of February. 14 days later, Khamenei posted his AI coffin, and the answer did not come as a tweet. 3 days after Khamenei posted his picture, ship spotters in southern Spain pointed their cameras at the Strait of Gibraltar and caught something unusual. The USS Gerald R. 100,000 tons, 1,100 feet of nuclear-powered flight deck, was steaming east with her running lights on and her automatic identification system broadcasting her position to anyone with an internet connection. Warships almost never do that. Ford wanted the whole world to see her coming. Flanking her were the destroyers Mahan, Winston Churchill, and Bainbridge. A P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft circled overhead, sweeping the surface and subsurface with sensors designed to find submarines hiding in the thermal layers. A Spanish Navy frigate had joined the escort through the Narrows. Ford had been at sea since June. 8 straight months, first in the Mediterranean, then the Caribbean for Operation Southern Spear and the raid that pulled Nicolas Maduro out of Caracas. Now she was heading back east, carrying Carrier Air Wing 8 and its 4 squadrons of Super Hornets. If the ship stayed deployed through April, her crew would break the post-Vietnam record for continuous carrier operations. She was not arriving alone. Onshore, the United States Air Force had been quietly flooding the theater for days. 18 F-15Es landed in Jordan. 18 F-35As followed. A dozen F-16 slots slotted in behind them. F-22 Raptors repositioned to bases within striking distance. EA-18G Growlers, dedicated electronic warfare jets built to blind enemy radar networks, moved into range. E-3 AWACS aircraft began flying racetrack patterns to command the airspace. Satellite imagery showed tanker aircraft shifting from Al Udeid in Qatar to Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, farther from Iranian missiles, closer to refueling tracks. And somewhere in the continental United States, B-2 Spirits sat on alert, each one capable of carrying 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, a 13-ton bomb designed to punch through 60 meters of reinforced concrete, the only aircraft on Earth certified to carry it. The same weapon that hit Iran's nuclear facilities during Operation Midnight Hammer 8 months earlier. 2 carriers, 15 destroyers, 160 combat aircraft, nuclear submarines carrying cruise missiles whose exact positions not even allied navies knew. The largest concentration of American military power in the Middle East since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. That same morning, the president was asked a direct question. "Are you considering a limited military strike on Iran?" He paused, smiled, and said 5 words. "I guess I am considering that." Then he told reporters Iran had 10 to 15 days to reach a deal. Tehran called in backup. Russia sent a corvette. China sent a frigate. They announced joint exercises in the Strait of Hormuz under the banner Maritime Security Belt 2026. A former CENTCOM commander looked at the lineup and offered his assessment. "I do not think this fundamentally changes anything." Senator Lindsey Graham saw Khamenei's post and replied with a line from the 1969 Western True Grit. "Bold talk for a one-eyed fat man. See you at the movies." Oh, I forgot. You don't have movies. It was crude. It was dismissive, and it captured the strategic reality better than any policy briefing could. Here is what Khamenei's AI image actually proved. Not that Iran can sink an aircraft carrier. 81 years of history, a 4-week sinking exercise, and 3 earthquake-level shock trials say otherwise. And not that Iran lacks dangerous weapons. The Khalij Fars can damage a flight deck, a swarm can saturate a magazine, and mines can close a choke point for days. What the post proved is that Tehran still does not understand the audience. Iran's military doctrine is built around cost imposition, inflicting enough pain that the other side decides it is not worth it. That strategy works against democracies fighting optional wars with borrowed patience. It worked conceptually in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in every drawn-out conflict where public opinion eventually turned. But it requires time, months, years, a slow bleed. Khamenei did not buy himself time. He did the opposite. He handed a president who was already looking for justification a gift-wrapped provocation on a platform with 3.5 million witnesses. He turned a quiet negotiation into a public dare. And the response was not a tweet, not a press conference, not a sanctions package. It was 100,000 tons of nuclear-powered steel passing through the Strait of Gibraltar with its transponder on. The cost of that AI image was $0. The cost of what it accelerated, a $13 billion warship, 160 aircraft, 15 destroyers, and a president openly discussing strikes, is still being calculated. In American war doctrine, the loss of a supercarrier is not treated as a military setback. It is treated as an existential attack demanding total retaliation against the source. Every Iranian commander who has studied this doctrine knows the math. You do not sink an American carrier and survive what comes next. Khamenei bet that a picture of a sinking ship would project strength. Instead, it reminded every planner in the Pentagon exactly why the ship needed to be there. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss what is coming next. Do you think Trump will strike, or is this all leverage? Drop your take in the comments. This is War Horizon. See you on the next one.